So this is going to be just a quick demo of like the situation many people find themselves in. We're hopefully going to record this so it will live forever. It's going to be a little bit off the cuff, but let's pretend, yeah, we are recording. All right, so the typical way you might have got Phantom, well, the right way to get Phantom if you had it in the past, and I'll show you the right way. So a typical way to get it might be you go to the Git repository, and hopefully this is the way you retrieve the code in the first place. But you typically say code, actually it gives you SSH by default, but often you would take, if you're just trying to download and maybe you haven't logged in, you would have got the HTTP address. And then actually just let me be on some machine to show you how this works. You would do git clone the repository name, and that would give you, let me just make the screen a little bigger. That would check out a copy of the code and you'd have a directory called Phantom, which you probably have played with then for the next 2 years and done something with. Maybe change some initial conditions, change some files. But so 2 years later, you got this directory still sitting around with some code in it. And then you decide, well, maybe I should like contribute some changes or update or something like that. So updating is as simple as git pull, but you basically type git status to see what sort of state your repository is in. So you can see here, now the weird thing about Git is that every copy is also a repository. So every copy has the entire history of the code in it. So this thing I just copied out of GitHub, it has all the information going back to 2000 and whatever. Actually, probably back to 2008. Actually, maybe not. But it goes back a long time. You could, in principle, check out any previous version of the code. Okay, but I just want to give an example of what people usually find themselves in this situation. So you've checked out a copy of the master code, you've made some changes to it, and you want to know how to like either update or merge or push something back. All right, so I do have an example because on this machine, I have some like local changes that I've made, which have, okay, so these are fairly recent. So it's going to be a bit simpler than if your changes are very old. But the first thing is in git status, you'll notice that there's some locally modified files. So I've got a bunch of files that I've made local changes on this machine, and I haven't committed them anywhere. I haven't done anything with them. They're just changes compared to the copy of Phantom that I checked out a long time ago. That makes sense? So git status is your basic friend. Now there are more fancy ways of doing git, but I always just use the command line. So the first of all is to find out whether your changes are important or not. And the way to do that is to type git diff. So git diff will show you what's different from the code you checked out compared to the original copy of the code. So it shows you the changes you've made, maybe for your PhD or for your whatever was wrong on this machine. So if I type git diff, it will show me what my changes actually were. Okay, so I moved a space here. I've added an extra variable here. I fixed an error here. I put in some debugging statements. I put in a print statement. Now, I don't want to commit all of these things because some of it's just a bit of rubbish that I was debugging something with, and I don't necessarily want it all to go back in the code. But some of it's useful. So this stuff looks real. Okay, so there's a way to, so Git has like various stages. So what it wants you to do is sort of add and then commit. So add moves it up into a little green area. So for example, you could git diff a single file to see if the changes are important. And okay, let's decide, well, this is just a space, so I don't think this space is really significant. So I might just want to throw that one away. So I do git status, and it's got this command, at least in newer versions of Git, called git restore. So I could just git restore build makefile, and that gets rid of my local changes. And then I have git status. So that one's gone away from the red list. It just goes back to the original version I checked out because that little bit of change wasn't very important. Okay, so basically we still want to go through this procedure of git diff. Now this one's a bit funny because I've got one thing that I want to keep and one thing that I don't want to keep, which is this stuff is just debugging, but this stuff's real. So the way to deal with that is you can do this git stage -p, which is something Christoph taught me. So stage minus P like asks you a question about every little chunk about whether you want to keep it or not. So I'll do it. I don't know what all the letters apart from yes, no mean, but there are other letters. So I want to keep that, yes, no to that, yes to that, yes to that, yes to this, I think. Yes, yes to that, and no to that, yes to that, yes to that, yes to that, yes to that, and yes to that. A couple more. Okay, you've probably got a lot more than this if you've had the code for a while, but you can go through them all one by one and make sure that the things you're trying to include are the things that really should be in the code. All right, yes, nearly done. Yes, yes, yes. I didn't realize I'd made this many changes, but apparently I did. Okay, and we're done. So now we type git status again, and we've got some stuff that's still in red because that's the stuff I kind of rejected. But I've got this stuff that's now in the green space. So the first thing you do when you've got some green stuff that you want to be able to go back to, or you want to save. So the save command is basically git commit, and git commit always takes a message. So the sort of format in Phantom is like a little, what part of the physics or something that I'm making a change to, and then just some useful comment that tells, well, you and everybody else what those changes are. So for example, this was some issue I came across where the code wouldn't compile on this machine. And I'm actually not going to commit all of those. Actually, yes, I am. Okay, let's do that. Okay, so now what I should have is just the red stuff left. So if you commit without any name of any file, so you can commit files individually, but if you commit without anything in the file names here, it'll just commit the stuff in green. Everyone okay with that? Okay, so then this is the stuff I wanted to throw away, so I can git diff still, and it should show me the stuff I had left. Yeah, and this is the things I want to throw away. So here I can just git restore again. So git restore. And all I'm really doing is reading the little help here that says git restore to discard changes in working directory. So git restore source main KD tree. Okay, so that's the first step, is to get your locally modified version so that the working tree is clean. Right, so I've committed any changes which are important. I've thrown away anything which is just debugging rubbish. And I haven't done any communication with the outside world. This is just on the local copy that's sitting on this machine. Okay, now the next thing that should happen is you might want to say git push. Okay, but there's going to be a problem here. Well, first of all, well, actually, I'm on a branch here. So there's no branch like with this name that exists on the repository, so I already can't push that. Let me just do something in between because I wasn't trying to be that fancy. Also, my internet connections died. Type stuff. It's always dangerous to do a live demonstration. Oh, okay, that was really disconnected. Okay, so it says I'm on a branch, actually, which I hadn't noticed. So the next thing to do would probably be to, well, you can either push that branch to the main code. So for me, I have to work on a branch because I don't have a fork, but I'm going to pretend that I'm one of you guys and I have a fork. So normally when you have a fork, you would be working on the master branch because you just have your main thing. And I'm actually going to just git merge that branch back onto the master. Okay, okay, now it says, well, I do know something about this remote thing because I'm ahead by 99 commits. So I've got a whole bunch of things which apparently exist on this repository, but don't exist in the main code. Okay, so let's do something which it shouldn't allow me to do. I'm going to just git push, but it says, well, what's your username? Okay, because I just checked out this code with like git checkout, git clone, HTTPS, blah, blah, blah. So it doesn't know. In fact, GitHub won't even let you do this username password thing anymore. So then it's like, well, okay, what do you do now? All right, so the right way to do this should be to push to your fork. All right, so what does that mean? Well, what it means is when I first did this thing on the repository, now can I fork my own copy of my own repository? Maybe I can. Okay, I can make it in someone dangerous. Yeah, so I can't fork it in my own place, but normally you would make a fork, you create fork, and that would give you a copy with just, instead of Daniel J. Price, it would be like your username / phantom. And I'm going to use Mike's as an example for this, which is probably dangerous. But because I have access, I think, to Mike's. What do we got? No, but let's see. Public archive. It's now read only. Can you unread only it? Or can you just get a fresh fork for me? Or can you delete that and make a fresh fork? So the idea is you press this big fork button and it makes a copy. All right, I'm going to show you the unarchive would be great. In the meantime, I'm going to show you how to fix this problem with the HTTPS. So GitHub wants you to use your SSH key. It's the only way you're allowed to communicate with GitHub. So to do that, you have to go into your settings. So this is in your account settings. You have to go to settings here. And there's a little setting here called SSH and GPG keys. And basically, you have to enter your SSH key here. Now, you might ask, what's an SSH key? Well, most of you will probably already have one. So if you go, for example, into your .ssh directory, you usually have a key lying around already. For example, this one's called IDRSA and IDRSA.pub. So if you just look at what's in the IDRSA.pub file, there's some kind of public key. And that's my key from Gaddy. And I would copy that into this thing. And I would say, well, this is my key from Gaddy. So make sure you do the public version. So that's the .pub. And there's you can search, how do I generate SSH key? It's a single command like SSH keygen if you want to do this in the first place. But most of the time, you've probably already got one lying around. Now, so you add that to your account. Okay. Verify, blah, blah, blah. I think I've probably got this key added already, but we'll see. Okay, so it wants to verify with my mobile account. Good. All right, so it says the key's already in use because I've already added this key here. But that means I should be able to communicate with GitHub. Now, if you go back to your fork, so you'll notice that if you had checked it out with SSH, which is only possible if you're logged in and you've got the SSH key exchanged, then there's an address here called SSH, which is like slightly different to the HTTPS address. So that's the one you need to use to be able to push things back. All right, so the hack I use to make, is so all the Git stuff lives in this repository called .git. And if you just go into the .git directory, there's a file there called config, which is just a human readable file. And it has the address that you got the repository from right here. So I just go in and manually edit it if I've accidentally checked it out from the public code, and just change that to be that SSH version. And the SSH version is basically the same. It's like git at github.com, and then it's a colon instead of a / there. Now, if I was one of you guys, so you've probably got that from my repository, but now what you want to do is push back to your fork. What you could just do is just change that to be you. So in this case, we're going to just change it to the Mike Lau. Yeah, pretending that's my fork. Okay. Which, does that exist now?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe I have write access to it.
You might have to
Okay. Let's see. Okay, but basically now my master branch thinks it came from, even though I didn't actually get it from the fork in the first place, it thinks I got it from the fork, which is fine. So if I do git push, that's where it'll push it back to. Okay, so let's go back one directory now. So git status, so remember we've got this working tree clean, so now I can just type git push. And it's going to complain because I haven't tried to synchronize these two things. Okay, I must have push access, which I don't have. So I guess I need to accept my invitation from Mike. Great. All right. So this is quite good because you can see this is the quite typical situation where you've checked out the code a long time ago and it's 1,618 commits behind. Yeah. So, you've checked out the code at the start of your PhD. So this is the kind of situation we want to resolve. We want to incorporate your changes on top of a very old copy and push it back to the new copy. All right. So let's attempt to do this. All right. To delete my email from the recording here. Okay. So let's try this again. Git push. Just thinking about it. Amazingly, that just worked. All right, so normally that wouldn't work because if you're behind, you would need to git pull followed by git push. So you need to pull the changes into your code and then push the changes back. But in principle, well, seeing as that went through the first time, it just says, well, it says here what to do is basically I should go and create a pull request, but I've just pushed that to the master branch on Mike's repository. Sorry, so let's go back. Just refresh this page. Okay. Well, okay, so that's the reason why it accepted that is because that's actually not what the main branch is called. So it's just pushed it to a separate branch. Okay, but in principle, what you can do then, well, let's go with that. Whatever this branch is called, it's fine. So this one's 99 commits ahead, 20 commits behind. Then I just do contribute, open pull request. Okay, and in principle, that's fine. So we can just fill in the details here. I actually don't know what the changes are. We should have a look. Okay, so this is dangerous because it's like a pull request that's, so I'm not going to go through with this pull request, but you get the idea. So from there, you basically type in some details, fixes to the MPI code. You do create pull request. I'm actually going to create this pull request. This has also got Conrad's branch involved. On Gutty, and the template's there. Just so, did you run the bots is meant to be, do you know that the bots exist? You probably don't. So the bots, if you wanted to run the bots, you just go in the scripts directory and you type bots.sh. F indent is not found. So you just do no indent if you don't want to run the indent bot. And the bots just do a bunch of things on the file. So if you run it with no argument, it will just show you what it will change without actually doing anything. Wait a while. So there's no obligation to run the bots, but it's just to show you if you don't want your changes to be owned by me, because I've adjusted your indentation, you can run this yourself if you want. Okay, so you can see it's just making some small changes to the header. So it's changing the owner of a file to be me instead of Conrad. It's changing some dependencies in the file headers, updating the copyright to be 2023, this kind of thing. So these things just get done automatically. So you have a choice whether you want to run that or not. Let's go through with the pull request. So let's just say, no, I didn't run the bots, just create pull request. And so that creates a pull request on the master repository. So you can see I'm now on Daniel Price Phantom. And this pull request, and the advantage of doing this, even if you don't intend to commit all this stuff, is it then triggers a bunch of automated checks. So most often these will fail with some small things, which will need to be fixed before we can merge it. But once these are passing, we can just click the merge button. And it shows us actually what's different. It actually turns out to be a lot different because I've just merged a few different copies of the code, but you can see here what the changes are. It can undergo some review, and we can decide whether to merge it or not. But that's not on to you anymore. Once you're at that stage, all I have to do is click the yes button or give you some feedback on what's wrong with it or things like that. So that's the basics. Is everyone pretty clear on that? Is there anything that was unclear in those steps? Okay, so just show you how to run the bots properly. So you can see if you want to actually commit those changes using the bots, you just do ---- commit, which will commit and push the changes that were listed above. Oh, yeah. Well, so bots with no argument won't do anything. Okay. I mean, if you're having problems with the bots, don't worry about it. Yeah. It's not able to write to your temp/tmp directory, I think is the problem. Okay. So the next stage we're going to do is Miguel has got an example of where he's tried to issue a pull request, but it's failing some tests and he wants to know why it's failing. So we're going to swap laptop, I think. And we're going to walk through how to fix that. Okay, but you'll notice, so the other thing I'll just say is when you've got a pull request open like that, so it's kind of live connected to your repository. So you can see already I'm failing some tests. So I've got a little X here. And you can see it's like failing the MPI test for some reason, probably because the code's not building. So I'll show you what that is. You can click details. So I'm not going to merge this stuff, but there's an X here, which is basically it failed to compile because I've done something wrong. So we're not going to merge this. Recipe commences before first target, which probably means I've put a space instead of a tab in my makefile. But okay, that's the error that it gets when it tries to type that command in the Phantom directory, basically. All right, so we'll go to Miguel's actual error. But that's the basic workflow. So you got to connect yourself to your fork, push to your fork, and then issue a pull request from your fork to the master repository. And I'm happy to walk through, if anyone's got some local changes they want to bring in, I'm happy to go through it. So Miguel? Yep. Yeah. I'm just going to close that pull request without merging. So these little actions are just in the Phantom repository. They're in a directory called GitHub /workflow .github/workflows as a little YML file. So they will run on your repository if you let them as well. So they're just running some magic cloud thing. So let's have a look. So we got a little X here that says something's failed. Click.
Okay.
Yeah. On the X.
Oh, index.
Okay, so you got a bunch that says 171 successful, 2 cancelled, and 3 failing. So you got to find the one that's failing. Let's have a look. So click details. So this is a build failure. So there's 3 types of things. So the build is just basically just compiling the code with lots of different things. Okay, so what Conrad and Dave did, which is really clever, is like split it up into little runners that all compile different combinations of options. So component equals main is like just compiling Phantom. Component equals setup is compiling Phantom setup, and utils is like compiling a bunch of all the other little things like split part, merge part, mod dump, blah, blah, blah. So it's in one of these. So you have to click on the little arrow to see. So it's in something like make something, test GR galaxies. Okay, well, this is not your fault. So this is basically, so some setups require downloading of files from the internet. And this directory this thing doesn't exist anymore, which has been updated in the master code.
Okay.
So the way to solve this is to update your code, which maybe we can do.
Yeah, that would be good.
All right, so let's go to a directory, and can you type git status? Oh dear. Tidy analysis. Okay, so can we type git diff? Yeah, can you make it bigger? Just make the whole font bigger for your terminal. Yep, just increase the font size.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this one. Yeah, this size. Yeah. No, more. Like 20, 24. Oh yeah, how's that? A bit better? Okay, so these are like unintentional changes, right? Are these deliberately in your .gitignore files? They look plausibly like they should be there.
Oh yeah, this is for the
So just queue for a minute. Git status. So this thing here is like a permissions difference on the files. So that doesn't look right. So can you just git diff and scroll through everything, make sure that anything's real?
of this.
I mean, any of these changes intentional?
Nope.
Can we just scroll through and make sure? Can you just git diff and then scroll? Yeah, scroll, keep going. So the .gitignore looks semi-intentional. So you don't want to commit this. This is like a permissions change. Okay, Q. And git status. Oh, so I mean, a real simple way, if you haven't got any changes, if you just want to get your fork up to date, is just check out a new copy from your fork if you don't want to bother with this. Or you can git restore all of these one by one. Sorry, you have to. What does it say to do in the help there? Scroll back up. Yeah, git restore should work. Yeah.
All of them.
Well, that's what I mean. So if you want to do it quicker, if we just trying to bring your fork up to date with the master, let's do that on your
It's the branch that I've been working on, but that's fine.
So just check out a fresh copy of Phantom in some other directory somewhere from your fork.
I don't have forks. I have branches.
If you go to your repository that you had, that is your fork. This is your fork. It's Miguel ZB/Phantom. So that's what your fork means. Yeah, so just code here. Check out this one. And yep. Git clone.
If I do git clone, it will.
Just give it a different name. So don't type make do, you can, well, that's fine, yeah. If you give a name after the git clone, if you can give an extra argument, we'll give the directory name, that's fine. So you notice Miguel has exchanged his SSH key. So that means that the clone with SSH just worked because he's already put his key in the GitHub. That means you can push straight back. So this is a clean copy from your fork. So what we want to do now is if we want to bring his fork up to date with the master code, we want to add a branch which is tracking the main repository from me. We want to merge these things together and then push back to Miguel's fork. So eventually. So the Google search you want is git, how do I add a remote branch? But let's not do that. It's because it's just simply git remote add. And then it's the web address. So just do the HTTPS. It's fine because we're not going to push to it. HTTPS, no, not from you, from me. / github.com Daniel J. Price /Phantom. Yeah. And you need a name. And you need a name. I think Origin or no, Daniel.
Yeah.
Just Daniel's fine. You're not in the directory, so you have to go into the Phantom directory. Yeah. Daniel. So the other way around, why is that not a valid remote name? Oh, sorry, the Daniel comes first and then the address.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so now if you go into your .git directory and have a look in the config file, this will show you what's happened. Just look in the config file, shows you what branches are what. So you've got an origin which comes from Miguel, and you've got a remote called Daniel, which is plugged into mine. So if you git pull Daniel now, you're going to pull from my fork onto yours. So if you just type git pull Daniel, back a directory. Okay, and it's like, where do you want to pull Daniel to? So if you want to pull Daniel onto your master, you just git pull Daniel master. Okay, so it's like these have diverged a long time ago. So I would just say yes to this one. Just type that thing. Just the, yep. Go again. No, that's fine.
Same one?
Just do the pull again. Yep. Okay, so this is saying, oh, I can't do anything because I don't know your name. So we have to run this command, give you your email and name. No, user.email. Yeah, you got an E there. Yeah. Yep. Okay, and the same with your name. Up arrow, up arrow. Oh, it's fine. So this is what appears in the logs. No, so not username, actual like human name,
Oh,
like Miguel, capital M. So this is what appears when you type git log. It says Miguel email address, like who made the change. Yep. Okay, now you should be able to do the previous command, git pull. Okay, so this is the typical situation. You've got some change where you've made a change and someone else, and I've made a change at the same time. So you get what's called a merge conflict. All right, so it's easiest if you just look at this in a simple text editor like Nano or whatever your VI, whatever your favorite basic text editor is. Oh, that's not basic. Can we look in this file just in? I want to show you what it actually looks like in the file because sometimes it's easier to just do it in text rather than in the fancy thing. Oh, okay. Is this a fancy text editor?
same Emacs.
Okay, so this is fine. I mean, it's kind of giving you highlights, but basically there's two places where we change the same line. So what Git does is puts, when you have a conflict, it puts in these little conflict bars. It says we got two versions, you got to choose which one's correct or merge them both. So so someone's added done init EOS and someone's added finish EOS. So which one do you want? Which one's the correct one? Or both?
I don't recognize finish EOS. I left, so.
So head is you, and this one is what's come from the master repository. Safest thing to do is put everything in. So this is put init, put finish, put done in EOS.
I just press enter or?
So just delete the one you don't want and add the thing you do want.
You told me two of them.
See, I got this line. This is just lines in the file. It's nothing special. You can't delete both of them. You definitely need one. But you're going to get some errors now, I think, because you need done init EOS in probably one of them. So probably here we need to actually manually merge them. So you want to, yeah, but maybe you want to add finish EOS in that as well. So just delete the line below as well. That's just the, yep. So that, if you think that's fine, or we'll find out. Yep, it looks fine. So git status. Oh, another one. Yeah, okay, so another problem. Okay, so you've deleted a line and this one, someone's added a line and you've deleted it. Do you want that or not? Any more? So one more as well. Okay, so someone's adjusted the indentation, but here we've added an extra unit num as well. So, and requires EOS options has also been added by someone. So again, I would probably take the bottom version of this, which is just the thing without the indentation adjusted. Yeah. So these are like the genuine conflicts where you've genuinely both changed something. Yeah, and just delete this bit. Are you sure about that? Okay, you got a lot of conflicts.
Yeah.
So if you open in a fancy text editor, it will just say, it will give you some options to like click which one you choose rather than like just doing it manually. So someone's deleted this and you've changed it. It's actually in the middle of a routine, so it can't be. Oh no, it's okay. Or someone else has added this.
Probably Mike, but he left.
I would keep the new stuff probably.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it takes a little bit more work than we're doing right now, but the principle's still the same. Yep. Okay, more stuff. Okay, so you've all changed the same lines. There's a green. Okay, yeah, more, even more. Oh, well, okay, so I think this is one of the afternoon jobs was to do this merge. Normally you don't get so many conflicts. Well, it's a good reason to try and merge frequently and often so you don't end up with big things changed in both places. So you can just search for the like equals, equals, equals.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
Oh, okay. I think we're done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
happy. All right, so let's quit out of that or save it. Okay, so just git status again to show you where you are. Okay, so I'll show you that there's all this like unmodified stuff. Actually, you haven't made any changes because you've kept all the remote stuff and you've thrown away your own stuff. So so then you just do a commit that's just a committing, because everything's in green here. It's everything that's left over from the merge. We're just going to commit the merge. So I'll just say merge for this. Just say merge, nothing else. Because you haven't made any changes. You've just merged a branch with another branch. Yep, that's it. Git status. Okay, so now you're clean, but you're ahead of origin master, which is your fork, by 215 commits. So if you git push now, that will go back to your fork with the merged code. Okay, and it's running the checks because it's arrived on your repository. So it's now running the checks on your repository. Make sense? Is anything about that step unclear to anyone? Otherwise, I think that's the end of the tutorial.